So apparently, torrents aren't around anymore. I mean, obviously, we knew that. We knew that, right, guys? We knew that. Torrents fell off
In
hella hard.
2006, 70% of all internet traffic was torrenting, the primary way for
Hell
people to
yeah, it
pirate songs,
was. I tell you what, I pirated everything. I
movies,
don't
and
give a
video
fuck.
games. Yet today, it's barely a percentage of the internet. How did torrenting become so popular and how did it die out? In the late 90s, internet traffic was booming, as was internet speeds. Most users had left dial-up internet for broadband, moving from 50 kilobits per second to over 1 megabit per second, or 20 times the speed. This
That's
leap
crazy
forward
though.
opened a world of possibilities. It no longer took minutes to load an image or download a song, but
Yo, sometimes that shit would take days. I was there. I'll tell you what, it took days sometimes.
seconds. Traffic was booming, but there was a problem. People wanted to download songs and movies, but
Yeah.
couldn't. There was no Netflix or Disney Plus, and
Okay.
iTunes was
Okay.
barely.
But like, look, there might not have been no Netflix but you download pirated movies. That was basically Netflix torrents right there. That's what that was. You know what I'm saying? Movies. As long as somebody was hosting or had it up on there, you can download that shit.
Getting off the ground. These services allow us to access music, movies, games, and everything else super easily and legally. But back then, before the spread of centralized servers and systems, the internet was more like the Wild West. Companies
It really fucking was the Wild West. Oh my god. Even early YouTube was the Wild West. It was crazy. Good times. I miss it.
didn't know how to service or monetize it. So out of this void came peer-to-peer. Imagine you and thousands of others wanted to listen to a new song online, but there was no easy way to do it.
No.
There was no website you could go to and just stream from. Instead, someone had to rip it from a CD and decide to use a peer-to-peer platform.
Yep, you have to fucking burn a CD and give it to your homie. Like, oh, I fucking burnt the CD for you. It'd be a little bit lower quality than the original, but hey, you got to listen to that whole CD for free. You know what I'm saying? Like, if someone bought it, like, oh, burn that CD for me. Oh, burn the CD. It was fucking great times. Tell you what, talk about social media. It was real life media.
When you connect, you're downloading music from another Napster user's machine, and the programs, the music never resides on Napster's equipment.
Here, the
Yeah.
user would seed the file for others on a platform like Napster. They aren't
I've used
uploading the
it.
file. Instead, they're allowing you to download the song directly from
Straight from
their
them.
computer. Then, with the file on your computer, you could seed it for others. The
Yep.
more seeders, the easier it was to download.
Yep.
Peer-to-peer made it easy for pirated songs and movies to
It was basically how the dark web works. Literally, it's like how the dark web works. Same concept.
spread like wildfire. Platforms like Napster, LimeWire, and BitTorrent began appearing, and soon they all had millions of users. The internet in the 2000s really was a different place.
Yeah, it
It
was.
seemed like everyone was pirating. All of this
Everybody
was
was.
obviously
It was a normal thing to do. Like everybody was pirating until like you hear about your friend or some shit fucking going to like having the FBI pull up to the house because they fucking pirated hella movies. God damn, my hair's fucked up, man. I really need to get fucking hair plugs or something. Jesus Christ, my shit's thin. Anyways, yeah.
illegal, and it was a bit annoying to do, with all kinds of viruses hiding in the seed files. But that didn't stop people. It was easy enough for it to catch on. Industries like film and music had never seen such widespread copyright infringement, and
Yeah.
it was only getting worse. Torrenting had taken off. Its size was unbelievable. By 2006, 70% of the internet was peer-to-peer file sharing. People
Yeah.
no longer needed to buy CDs for songs. They could torrent them and then export
Yep.
them to an MP3 player. Easy
Yep.
for users, but it was costing copyright holders everything.
It really fucking was. It was costing them so much money. Like album sales would be down, fucking movie sales would be down. You could just pirate it, fucking for free. Everything for free. There's video games I play for free, movies I watch for free. Like if I wanted it, and it was out. Like I had to wait for like it to get a lot of peers. But yeah, sometimes you download a virus. I swear a lot of these fucking companies like music distributors and like movie companies and shit like that, production companies. I swear they were putting viruses on there so people would be scared to do it.
Motion Picture Association of America lost over $2.3 billion in potential revenue thanks to internet piracy, most of which came from peer-to-peer. Artists saw their new songs and albums leaked and downloaded, and it wasn't just artists who did. The global entertainment industry as a whole had been changed forever, and copyright holders needed to take action. The first instinct of media companies was to chase down the platform owners. These were the big peer-to-peer platforms, because if they were shut down, users wouldn't be able to pirate files. At least, that's what they thought. One of the first peer-to-peer platforms was Napster, and it naturally became one of their first targets.
Legal troubles over copyright infringement aren't slowing down Napster. The song-swapping company is now in the top 50 list of most visited sites on the web, according to Media Metrics.
But Napster made one fatal mistake. While the company did not host any songs themselves, they used a centralized server to organize these pirated files. And unfortunately for them, this gave law enforcement an easy target. Napster was sued for tens of millions by copyright holders, including A&M Records and even Metallica. Yet, during the lawsuits, something unexpected happened. These lawsuits had given Napster a lot of publicity. Even more people began signing up, rising to a peak of 80 million users. Not only that, existing users began downloading as much as they could before the platform disappeared. After countless lawsuits and payouts, Napster filed for bankruptcy in September of 2002. And soon, other cases began to spring up, the most notable of which was the Recording Industry Association of America, or the RIAA, suing LimeWire on behalf of record labels. They alleged that LimeWire had cost the music industry a ridiculous $75 trillion.
Oh, fuck.
For context, the GDP of
Fuck that. There's no way it cost them $75 trillion, man.
the entire planet at the time was $59 trillion.
Yeah.
Naturally, the court labeled this as absurd.
Yeah.
RIAA then pushed for $50 billion in damages, and eventually a final settlement of $105 million was reached.
That's better. 105 million.
But this was just the beginning. Copyright owners soon realized how difficult the battle against piracy was.
If they think Napster's bad, I can tell you there's a lot worse coming. You know, there's software that's that is untraceable just around the corner.
Whenever authorities closed down one platform, 3 more appeared. Users simply migrated to the new platforms and continued their illegal downloads elsewhere. Not only that, future platforms became decentralized and harder to track down, and the lawsuits were getting
basically it worked like the dark web.
Longer and longer. While it took Napster a couple of years to be shut down, torrent platforms like LimeWire were active for 10. Similarly, it took authorities a decade to finally arrest the last Pirate Bay founder, and even when they did, the website continued to exist. Some copyright holders and artists tried a more devious, malicious tactic. If they couldn't shut down torrenting legally, they would kill it from the inside. In 2003, Madonna intentionally leaked her latest album, American Life, onto file-sharing platforms. Except, it wasn't really her music. To a user browsing and torrenting, the songs might seem up to par, but the tracks contained no music, just Madonna saying, "What the F do you think you're doing?" This was called torrent poisoning. It would make the data less reliable, and it would give some users a good scare. Perhaps enough to stop them from torrenting further. And it wasn't just artists who did it either. HAL Laboratory intentionally leaked their latest video game, Earthbound. To a user who downloaded it, everything seemed normal at first, but as the game went on, the difficulty grew rampantly, far more than normal. Not only that, near the end of the game, the copy would freeze, and when the player rebooted, they would see all of their progress had been deleted. But even with all the lawsuits and the torrent,
that's a solid troll. I ain't gonna lie, that's pretty good.
Poisoning, things weren't working. Torrenting was still only growing. So organizations like RIAA tried a scare tactic next. While going after the platform owners, they also began to sue the users. Tens of thousands of users received lawsuits for illegally downloading music. College students found themselves charged with absurd charges. Jamie Thomas, a single mother of 2, was found liable for $222,000 in damages for sharing 24 songs on Kazaa. This did scare off a lot of users, but created even more problems. RIAA had been forcing internet service providers to hand over user data on a technicality, Digital Millennium Copyright Act. If they
Yeah.
suspected someone of copyright infringement, an ISP had to hand over this data without the approval of a judge. With that came an abuse of power. RIAA began sending thousands of lawsuits to users even vaguely connected to the platforms. For example, Sarah Ward, a grandmother, was sued for using the Windows-only Kazaa software to download hardcore rap music, except she only owned a Macintosh computer. Eventually,
Yeah.
all of that did change. In 2003, a judge ruled that the Digital Millennium Copyright Act gave RIAA no right to request user data
Yep.
from ISPs. RIAA was unlawfully casting wide nets to catch users. Moving forward, RIAA would need to conduct its efforts under the supervision of a judge.
Good.
This brought their crusade against users to a halt, so copyright holders tried yet another tactic. Authorities instead decided to follow the money. Chasing every platform wasn't working. Instead, they wanted to prevent any more from appearing by starving them. Torrent platforms
Okay.
made money through displaying advertising. If
Yeah.
authorities could stop their revenue, they would stop the incentive behind the websites.
Yeah.
They created a infringing website list and began pressuring search engines like Google to block customers from accessing these platforms. Partly this was to decrease traffic, but more importantly, to decrease ad revenue. Google,
Yeah.
Microsoft, Yahoo, AOL, and many other companies all promised to help reduce the flow of ad revenue to piracy sites. This certainly hurt torrenting and moved it away from the mainstream, but it wasn't enough to kill it. There were
Nope.
still millions of people torrenting files and
Pirate
finding
Bay.
a way to keep piracy platforms popular. Ironically, the solution was something completely unintentional, one that no one initially saw coming. In the early 2000s, e-commerce was
Amazon.
still in its infancy. iTunes launched in 2001, sometime after the launch of platforms like Napster. And it took some time before it saw mainstream adoption. There
Yeah.
weren't a lot of legal and affordable alternatives to piracy. Companies were still figuring out how to distribute online, so torrenting was just the easiest way for many to consume media.
Yeah.
But
Literally, that was like the only way I knew. Especially as a kid, I had no money. Like, what was I supposed to do?
that all changed. In 2007, amidst the battle between pirates and law enforcement came the real killer, Netflix. You could suddenly watch anything you wanted for just $9
Yes, I remember when it first came out.
per month. Naturally, Netflix would explode in popularity. In 2 short years, they had surpassed 11 million subscribers, which
Yep.
doubled 2 years after that. This is what really killed torrenting: convenience. The
Yep.
logic is simple.
You mail in your fucking Netflix.
If the legal method
I remember my mom used to do this. She used to do it a lot.
is
And then Blockbuster tried to follow suit and they just couldn't do it.
easier and reasonably priced, almost everyone will use the legal service. A
Yep.
small percentage will continue to pirate content to have it for free, but convenience is what drives not just most of our purchases, but our entire behavior. It was suddenly easy
Imagine mailing your movie in and having to wait till tomorrow to get another movie. Like, god damn. Shit moved slow back then. Crazy. But you have family movie nights and stuff like that. You rent a movie and watch the movie on a Saturday, Friday night. You know what I'm saying? It was fucking great. Now you're just like, what do you want to watch tonight? Anything. You know what I'm saying? Don't even know what to watch anymore.
easier to watch shows and movies legally through Netflix than to torrent. Not only that, with the release of more subscription platforms like Spotify, users had little reason to use piracy. Thus began the sharp decline
that's true.
of torrenting.
You can just pay like $5 a month, watch, listen to music with ads sometimes. Like, it was convenient. It was very convenient. Or even just the ad, like, even if they just had ads in between every song, but it was free, people did it. You know what I'm saying?
Torrenting gradually fell out of favor. By 2011, peer-to-peer had fallen to under 19% of internet traffic in North America. By 2013, that traffic was down to just 7.39%. It was on a gradual decline, and with it came the rise of web traffic. In 2015, all of peer-to-peer was estimated to be just 3% of internet traffic. For a comparison, that was about the size of Hulu, which wasn't even the
Damn.
biggest streaming site. This
Yeah.
created a snowball effect. There were less people on these platforms, so less people to seed files. Not
Yeah.
only was there less traffic, but it was getting harder and harder to torrent altogether.
It really was. Just wasn't worth it anymore.
With less traffic came less impact too. In 2017, pirates threatened to release Orange is the New Black on BitTorrent before it was officially released. But despite leaking the show, there was almost zero impact on the official performance.
'Cause nobody
By
was
this
using
point, the users who torrented the show probably weren't going to subscribe to Netflix either way. Today,
Yeah.
torrenting has almost disappeared. It still exists, but is a tiny part on the fringe of the internet. Torrenting is simply too inconvenient for most people. Piracy does still exist today, but
Takes too
it's
long.
not peer-to-peer. It's illegal streaming, where users can watch content without downloading anything, albeit while getting bombarded with advertisements and viruses. With the dozens of streaming services out and prices constantly being hiked, illegal streaming is catching steam. By 2016, illegal streaming claimed 73% of internet piracy, but this
I mean, people are gonna do that, especially over in third world countries or like lesser countries, second world countries. They're gonna definitely do it because it's just like they can't afford it and they want to watch the new Fast and Furious.
same cannot be said about
Makes sense.
torrenting. Times have changed. Those who grew up around BitTorrent and Napster are much older and less likely to pirate. In the meantime, younger generations grew up in a totally different world with Netflix, Spotify, and all kinds of convenient and legal methods, with no desire or need to use torrenting, or rather, without knowing it even existed in the first place. If you're interested
Yeah, these new kids don't even know about torrents. Like it literally died out that hard. Like I guarantee you, got somebody who's 20 years old, they probably don't know what a torrent is.
in deeper dives, interviews with insiders, and exclusive tech analysis, you can sign up to our free weekly newsletter. Link is below. But until then, I'm Hari, and I'll see you guys on the next one.
It's a good video. Share it.